Hey everybody, it's Chuck. Doing this our robot assignment. It's fun, woohoo! I gotta do a video response as to my answers to my questions. So, hope it's not too boring. Just for me. Okay, first question asking me, difference between robots and robotics. Robots are programmed machines with limited intelligence created to aid humans in daily tasks, and robotics is the use of these robots for your tasks. So, basically robotics, that's what the robot's for, and the robot is the robot. It carries out the functions. And the second question is asking me whether Detective Spooner from the movie I, Robot was considered to be a man or a robot, and I think he's a cyborg because, he's part man and part robot. He's not entirely one of either. And cyborgs are a fusion of man and robot. So, yeah, cyborg. Team cyborg. Not team Edward, not team Jacob, team cyborg. Woohoo. The third question is asking me whether or not Darth Vader is a man or a robot. And I feel Darth Vader is also cyborg because even though he had a lot of his body replaced by robot parts, he still possesses human emotions and can still, think for himself. Even though he doesn't really choose to, sort of takes crap from the Emperor. He's still mostly man, part robot, cyborg. And fourth question is asking me, whether, like, at what point I think a human becomes a robot. And I think a human becomes a robot when they can't really express emotion or be capable of emotion. And they think using a CPU or a motherboard instead of a brain. The question to me is asking me about people who have robotic parts, what their title is. And a person who has robotic parts, they don't have a title. Anyone can own or build the robotic parts, but a person who uses the robotic parts, the replacement for one or some of their own body parts, is known as a cyborg. And cyborgs use robotic parts to aid themselves in daily tasks, such as walking, grabbing, or in some cases even speaking. I don't personally know anyone with such robotic parts, but I do know Oscar Pistorius, I think his name's pronounced. He's an Olympic runner with prosthetic limbs. And this question is asking me about Vicky and female robots in the movie I, Robot. Um, there are no female robots in the movie I, Robot because there's no such thing. Technically, to be a man or a woman, you gotta have natural reproductive glands, i.e., a vagina or penis, body parts. Get over it. Robots are usually thought of as being male or female as well, but we only think of them this way because the voice that we hear from them. Vicky isn't a computer or a robot because she's a supercomputer program. Vicky technically wouldn't be considered a robot because she doesn't perform any one specific function, and she's not a tangible thing either. Vicky is a supercomputer program because she isn't a computer itself, but she operates through the computer. There are no female robots in real life because, it's impossible to assign a sex to an abiotic thing. You can't have a female robot any more than you can have a female rock or a female cookie. Only living things, not including plants, can be reasonably considered female. Seventh question is asking me, Asimov thinks that, humans do things to harm themselves, and I agree with this pessimism because we do certain things that unintentionally harm ourselves. There are a lot of harmful things that we do to ourselves that can really be stopped if we took a minute and used this new thing. Yes, it's called common sense. It's magic. We really do some stupid things like destroying forests, which takes away our oxygen, polluting, which destroys habitats, and, there are a bunch of other things that we do. Don't need to go into details. If you think hard enough, it ought to come to you. There are some things, there are some people that see robots as being a better breed than humans, I think that's because robots aren't capable of emotion, therefore, in a dangerous situation, they're more likely to make the sensible choice instead of making one based solely on emotions. Like the robot at the beginning of iRobot, he saved Spooner because he thought he'd have a better chance of living. Even the Spooner's like, get the girl! Anyway, I personally think that we are the better breed than robots because we're more complex than robots. We can express emotion, figure things out, and create new things. When you think about it, if robots are really the better breed, they would have made us instead of us making them. Yeah. The three laws of iRobot were that a robot may not injure a human being or through interaction allow a human being to come to harm. A robot must obey orders given to it by a human being, except where such orders conflict with the first law. And the final law is that a robot must protect its own existence, as long as such protection does not conflict with the first or second law. The first law means to me that a robot isn't allowed to hurt a human or let them be hurt. The second law means that a robot has to do anything a human tells it to do, so long as it doesn't involve harming a human. The final law is saying that a robot must do what it can to protect itself as long as it doesn't mean harming a human or disobeying an order from a human. The laws were not reworded or reordered by Asimov, the author of the book I, Robot, and I don't think that he altered them because he was overall satisfied with the way the laws were originally written. Um, I believe that the laws were sufficient to an extent, and I think this because all the laws are basically saying is that a robot has to protect itself while protecting and taking order from a human. But I do think that the laws can go like severely wrong. For instance, let's say a human says, "Hey robot, you have to kill a man, then kill yourself." Anything the robot did would break at least one law, and there's no way out of it for the robot. So, pretty sure they cause some sort of error. The robot's CPU would just blow to bits. Machines help us to do a lot of tasks much quicker and much more exact. Machines help us with big and small things on a regular basis. When most people have something important to do in the morning, for example, the night before they'll set an alarm clock to help them wake up at a certain time. And this time of year, when the weather starts to get cold outside, we use a heater of some sort to keep ourselves warm when we go inside. And one of the machines that we use most is a computer, such as the one I'm using now. We constantly use a computer for social networking, researching, and other things like online gaming. Go Halo! Machines that help us in our daily lives include microwaves, MP3 players, television, gaming systems, electric toothbrushes, air conditioners, cameras, Blu-ray players, watches, and iPods/iPhones. Our daily life would change majorly without these, like severely, because we often take these for granted. For a few examples, without MP3 players and iPods, we'd have limited music availability. Without television, well, as Americans, we would probably burst into flames from unfulfilled interests. And without iPhones, there'd be no Temple Run. And, those people, we gotta have our Temple Run. I don't know if that's just me. Gotta have it. Before the iPhone was invented, like way, way back before the iPhone was invented, we had these crazy phones, like military walkie-talkies, and didn't really work like iPhones. Screen wasn't touch, you couldn't get apps. Had this huge antenna, and all it really did was make phone calls. Yeah, past was very scary. Glad I didn't have to live back then. This robot called Adam. He was in the Outer Limits episode of iRobot. He didn't follow the original laws of iRobot because, well, he did follow some of them because he didn't seek to harm humans, only to protect them. He did break one of the laws because he didn't seek to protect himself. He didn't defend himself in the court case. I don't think society's ignorance toward technology filtrates me just like it used to. Maybe more toward the senior generation. There are actual robots, military robots, that I don't think follow the laws of iRobot because, only sometimes the law includes helping themselves as well, and I doubt these robots don't harm humans, seeing as they're military operated. In most cases, a person can be held accountable for robots' actions unless they're, adaptive. Then they have to take responsibility for their own. The difference between a robot and another piece of automated equipment is that the robots have a limited source of intelligence, and any other piece of automated equipment not considered to be intelligent, but just seen as another machine. Boom, that was our robot. Hope you loved it. I didn't. Alright, I did. I loved it.